please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. I said, in this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. You make this parade a mere charade if you're marching just for fun. Our troops must feel your thanks for real before the marching is done. They know side by side you can match their stride to the drum beat and the brass, but they're not impressed with you unless you can match their stride in class. This may not sound too diplomatic, but I cannot be more emphatic as I tell you, it's problematic when you do less than your best. Especially when it's because you put your brilliance on pause for the mere peer applause it draws from a so-called friend doing less. Quit playing, I'm saying, you know that you are great, and we know it, so show it. Don't make our heroes wait. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave who fight for you. If you don't gain, they fight in vain. Show them what you can do. Show them what you can do. Please show them what you can do. For those of you who already do the things that make us proud, your nation in appreciation says thanks to you out loud. Your schoolmates should imitate the way you tap your potential. Let me try to convince them why their effort is essential. Our men and women in uniform, before, during, and after Desert Storm, always perform above the norm, anywhere and everywhere on the planet. They need to follow our heroes' lead, but they cannot lead if they cannot read. Allow me, please, to plant this seed. Don't take freedom for granted. I'm serious, I'm furious to see U.S. schools behind. Remove the clatter, it's just a matter of our making up our minds. In this parade, please wave your grades at the brave.
Good afternoon and welcome to Wave Your Grades on KUAW.org, the academic patriotism program that is dedicated to veterans and serious secondary scholars. I am your announcer, DeQuay Wilson. Now here is our host, civilian urban educator, Carl Boyd.
Thank you so very, very much, DeQuay Wilson. DeQuay Wilson is our producer, engineer, announcer, co-host, and she is the one who keeps us on time. She is the one who helps us make transitions and all of those technological things for which I have technophobia. My name is Carl Boyd, your host on Wave Your Grades, and today, February 24th, is the last Saturday in our celebration of Black History Month. However, anyone who has been a part of the armed forces knows that all year is not just Black history, it is history that includes a multicultural mosaic of those who are serving in the military. So I am so pleased in so many ways. First, before I make a personal, really pleasing announcement, let me first welcome Commander Jarena Floyd. That is VFW Post 8100, Grandview, Missouri, for consenting to be our guest again today. You've been on before, but this is so special, Black History. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Carl Boyd. I accept your invitation, and I thank you for being here. VFW, that's Veteran of Foreign Wars, Post 8100. He made it.
Yeah. Well, hello. Is that Brother Anderson? This is so wonderful. Please come right on in. On Wave Your Grades. All that needed to happen was for the commander to speak, and in walked
another past commander.
Another past commander. Thank you very much, Brother Ben Anderson. But I want to be proper as far as nomenclature is concerned, as far as rank is concerned. So let me find out from this gentleman how he would introduce Ben Anderson.
Come on up to the mic.
And close to the microphone, if you would.
On up.
My name is Ben Anderson. I'm What would you like to know?
Oh, just in terms of my proper introduction would be rank, title, whatever that might be. How would I say that?
Okay, as far as the VFW is concerned, I'm the quartermaster. And Lyon's concerned, I'm a past district governor. City officials, I'm a former mayor and city councilman for the city of Merton Canyon in California.
California.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much for that. And it happens, Commander Floyd, that I said that I was going to make a personal announcement, of which I'm very proud, and then get back to our conversation. Now, it is interesting that this gentleman walked in when you did, because I have a praise report about Wanda's and my adopted daughter. So before I do that, and I will put that together, let me ask how you are doing health-wise and all of that.
Oh, I'm doing pretty good.
Okay.
I'm able to get up and move around.
Yes, sir.
Just had my 79th birthday.
Oh, okay.
So I feel
Hey.
great.
Outstanding and happy birthday. Now, let me tell you why I broached that and why I said I had a praise report. 1986, here in Kansas City, Missouri, a young lady graduated from Central High School, 1986. She was on her way to Annapolis. As a matter of fact, adopted to the point where at Annapolis I gave her away. And I was walking down that cathedral, and I was more concerned about stumbling than she was nervous about getting married. But so then she graduated in 86. That was just about 89 or 90 or something like that. But at any rate, received, and she became the first female to be the dean of the United States Naval Academy Prep School.
Oh, wow.
So she's in Rhode Island. Before they go to Annapolis, Maryland, they have to come through her.
Oh, okay.
So this is something about which Wanda and I share great pride. But DeQuay, week before last, I guess it was, she reported that she had stage 2 breast cancer.
Oh, boy.
And chemo and radiation, all of these kinds of things. I'm checking up on her back and forth. And the reason I said I was feeling so good today is because an email came, "Hey, Dad," and this was 2 days ago, praise report.
Okay.
So my wife could tell you more about diagnoses and prognoses and all of that. But the main thing is that everything was successful, reduction of lymph nodes, all of those, whatever it was.
Okay.
So we can say Alicia Malloy,
Okay.
Dean, United States Naval Academy Prep School, is doing fine. So God is good. God
That is
is
great.
good.
That is good.
And now this is so wonderful to me. If Jarena Floyd would, we were DeQuay at our own church last week, and the chairman of the Social Justice Ministry is Minister Rocky Walker, and he was doing history of blacks in the military. And we talked about making history because we have Jarena Floyd as a member of our church. Now, I know that you're an usher. What are some of the offices or capacities in the church?
Other than ushering, I'm in the choir.
Yes.
The sanctuary choir. And I was just elected the co-captain for the youth ushers. That's
Okay.
another reason why I was at church today.
Excellent.
All day. Let's see, I'm in the Hope Ministry, which is our food pantry. Let's see, I'm in WMU, which is Women's Mission United.
All right.
And that falls under the National Baptist Convention.
Okay.
And our local chapter is called New Era District. And in that district, I am the Mission Action Chair.
I see.
So I got a lot of hats.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of hats.
Now, DeQuay Wilson, you heard that. Brother Anderson, you heard that. Now listen to the answer to this question. How long have you been a member of Friendship?
2 years.
2 years. Can you imagine?
And I did most of that in my first year.
Yes, ma'am. That is so very, very outstanding.
Boots
And
on the ground.
one of the absolutely, and we always say that young people learn more by example than they do by instruction. So if someone is following your example, then they know what it means to be indeed active. And I'm going to ask both of you, because this question came up, and I'm not sure whether Brother Butler knew the answer to the question and wanted others to know, but he simply asked, what does VFW stand for? And you explained. So for this morning, I would like for each of you, in terms of what's on your jacket or title, how those things work for something called VFW.
Okay. Well, first of all, you have to be a veteran.
Yes.
And you have to be a veteran of a foreign war. So that's where the name VFW, Veteran of Foreign Wars, comes in.
Now, that gives me just a natural follow-up. What would that apply to for you?
Well, I was in the Iraq
Okay.
time frame.
Wow.
Yes. It was Desert Shield, Desert Storm. at the time when I
1991
went.
about?
Yes.
Something.
Yes, it was. My time over there, my husband was already there. And when a reserve unit in Colorado needed someone that was in my job specialty, they asked, well, they didn't ask, they told
Yeah.
me I was going to be going with them.
Wow.
And when I said, we have 2 children, I said, what about our children? And they said, what about them?
Oh, really?
And I said, well, I was a mother before I became a soldier. So I was what they call chaptered out. It was chapter 5 for the good of the military service.
Yes.
Because when you're both in the military, you have to do a family care plan.
Oh.
And within my family care plan, that means if time of war and we have to go, someone else has to watch your children. And at the time, I told them, well, nobody on my side of the family or my husband's side of the family was capable. And I really didn't want other people raising my children the way
Exactly.
I would have wanted them raised. So I still had to go over there and go through the whole in processing and everything. And that's when my chapter paperwork started. And I did have to seek legal counsel through JAG,
Wow.
which is the judge advocate of the military. And they outprocessed me and sent me back. And during this whole time, I never saw my husband over there
My
because,
goodness.
he was in a totally different area.
Yes.
And when I came home and he called, because I had no way of calling him. And when he called and I told him all that had happened, he said, you went through all of that? And I didn't know. And I said, how could you
Wow.
know? I mean, I wrote letters, but,
Yes.
you hadn't received those letters. And he said, well, if I would have knew where you were at, you would have went back pregnant. So I thought, no. So because there were a lot of women, because they didn't have the care for maternity care over there.
Oh,
so they were sending
wow.
them back home.
I see.
And
I
so
see.
that
Okay.
was
Yeah.
a lot of women's
Yeah.
way out, that
Yeah.
they probably didn't care who
Yeah.
the recipient was that
Yeah.
had the sperm, as long as it
Yes, ma'am.
made them pregnant. So
Yes,
he
ma'am.
was saying, well, yeah, you would have went back pregnant. And I said, well, I'm glad I didn't, because
Okay.
the children we have, 2 is enough. So I became a military wife at that time, but I was still a veteran. So
All right, and we
Yes.
will continue with some questions for you on that, but the same question would apply to Brother Ben Anderson, veteran of a foreign war, some of your history.
Well, I qualified as a veteran of foreign wars when we was deployed to the Indian Ocean. I was on a ammunition ship as the gunnery officer, and that was it.
It's very interesting when we get the opportunity, my being a civilian, to have on the program those who have served, because however much we suggest, we who are civilians suggest that we empathize, we can't come close to really understanding what it means to be deployed, what it means to have served. And let me just say, in case someone might be interested, that I am privileged to be a member of the VFW Auxiliary,
Yep.
based upon the fact that my oldest brother, Herbert William Boyd Jr., was in Korea
Okay.
from 1952 until 1955, February 8th, 52, February 8th, 55. And I wanted, because such wonderful conversation happens so often when we're off air, I wanted to share a story about my brother after I hear whatever length version of the story you were telling us about one of the things that happened where Korea is concerned.
Okay. Yes. My father, he's 93 years old. He was wanting to serve in the Korean War. And he was there doing his service, and a second lieutenant told my father, "Come here, boy." And my father's response was, "I'm not a boy."
And I take it
sir.
that I take it that the second lieutenant was not black.
He was not. He was. You are correct. He was not.
So your father
an
said,
African-American. I am not a boy, sir." And he got my father for insubordination. He put him up on insubordination charges. And he had to go through UCMJ, which is Uniform Code of Military Justice. And he was court-martialed.
my Lord.
And a black lawyer said, "Well, let me represent you. I'll get you off. You'll be able to stay in the military." He told him he promised him all this stuff. And so my dad said, "Okay, I'll let you represent me."
Absolutely.
Because the military wanted to put my dad in lockup. And they wanted him to serve in jail time a long time. So within the agreement of the deal, his lawyer, they wanted to give him a bad conduct discharge, and the lawyer terms, he talked him down to a general under honorable conditions, and he didn't do any jail time. And when he talked to the lawyer after it was over, he said, "Well, what happened? You said I would be able to stay serving, and you
Sure.
said this and that." And he said, "Well, hey, I did good. I kept you out of jail." He said, "I did good for my first time as a lawyer." So at that point, my dad was like, "Why would you let me be your first time?"
Well, let me tell you, in 2024, that's a funny story. But in 1954, that wasn't so funny.
No, it was not. No, it was
And
not.
it reminded me of something my brother told me. He was a lineman. So he's climbing poles and he's doing the wire. And below him, they were actually fighting.
Okay.
But he pulled double duty, I guess it was, and he had been pulling these things together for 16 or 17 hours straight.
Oh, wow.
And he finally was able to get in a bunk that was relatively safe from the fire, and a white officer told him that he had to get up and go back, and he said, "Sir, I've been given permission to get some rest," all of that. But at any rate, it was somewhat similar, except that this case, as he described it to the family, ended up with them rolling down a hill together. My brother had no compunctions about engaging a fight just like that.
Okay.
But fortunately, he was honorably discharged over time. But what this means to me, Brother Anderson, is when I said that those of us who are civilians have no idea what you go through, give us an appreciation for some of what your service was like. How long were you in the service? What are some memorable times and or events?
Well, I was in the service of 27 years. The first 20 years I was enlisted. The last 7 years I was commissioned officer, chief warrant officer.
27 years.
And I think in boot camp was where I saw the most blacks in my in my group. Most of the places I was stationed, most of the schools I went to, I was one of maybe anywhere between 40 to 75 people. The only black.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
And
Yes, sir.
many of the people I served with was from the South. I joined,
That didn't help.
I joined with two guys from Iowa and one guy from Kansas, all three white. We rode the train together when I got in boot
Okay.
camp. And basically, I joined the Navy at the time at a good time because they was pushing or reinforcing the Equal Opportunity Act.
Oh, okay.
We had just they just authorized blacks to be more than cooks and stewards
Yes, sir.
about 10 years before I joined.
What year would that have been about?
I think it was 55 when they authorized the change, and I joined in 65. And basically, like I say, it was somewhat of a challenge. I was lucky I got in boot camp, and I was the second in command of our company because I had a couple of years of I had a few months of college.
Okay, I understand now. Did you say 1965?
1965.
And did you say you volunteered?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I joined the Navy, and because I didn't want to go in the Army.
Now,
I spent 4 years or three, I'd say roughly 4 years in ROTC in high school.
yes.
ROTC is designed to educate people how to be in the Army, how to function in the Army.
Yes.
And basically, I didn't care for having to take and suck up to the commanding officer or anything
My
like
Lord.
that. I found out in the Navy, you take the test. If you pass the test,
Wow.
you are promoted. Now, sometimes you have to take and be on time and be
Yes.
responsive to all orders mostly in order to get recommended for
Yes, sir.
the ability to take the test.
Wow.
And I was lucky. I promoted to E6 in less than 4 years, 5 years.
Now, the reason I asked about the year, had you not enlisted, would you have been drafted?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Matter of fact, one of my friends who was younger than me had got his draft notice, and he was married.
Oh.
And I said, well, somebody skipped over me, I guess. I guess I better go down and see if I can choose where I wanted to go. And I found out that basically I could choose the field that I wanted to go into. And if they had openings or was needing people in those areas, I'd be right on top of the list.
It's interesting. You make me think about a couple of things. One is I was 4F because I was a teacher. A teacher was considered a critical occupation.
Yep.
Okay.
So that was one thing. And the other thing, I wanted to look at Commander Floyd because I was in high school from 1955 until 1959.
Okay.
I was in ROTC. There were no females
Huh.
when I was in ROTC. I'm sorry.
There was no females when I was going through RTC.
There you go.
No, it could have been the fact that they didn't want to, participate because of all the guys there. Or I don't know for sure,
Right.
but we had no women. We did have ROTC queens and
Yes, sir.
stuff
Absolutely.
like that, but
Absolutely.
no active.
Yeah, we had a
personnel.
military ball, even in high school, and of course we would invite the young ladies, but that allows me to look at Jarena Floyd as it relates to your experiences. What did it mean at your time to be a female.
And I did have ROTC in high school.
There you
I
go.
went to Southwest High School here in Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
And I did have ROTC.
What year?
And 1981 to 1985.
Okay. Yes, indeed. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
you guys were
So-
well into your careers by then.
Okay. Now, some of the things that you met being a female in your history, in your experiences, might include what?
Well, my first duty station was Germany.
Ooh.
And it was a ratio of 1 woman to about 15 men.
Okay.
So you could imagine what dating life was like.
Well, my Lord.
Yeah, you had guys coming from all over trying to court one. So it was challenging. And that's where I did meet my first husband in Germany.
All right.
Because he's from Georgia and I'm from Missouri. So everybody, well, you're from both states, those different states. How did you meet? And I said we were both stationed in Germany in
Yes.
the Army. So it was quite challenging
Absolutely.
to experience discrimination as a female in the military because they cater to men. And when I go to the VA here, it's more catered to men. And it was a challenge when I first started coming to the VA. Yes.
The interesting thing is, most of us would not be surprised in the 1950s, 60s, even 70s, if there were some discrimination or some reluctance to have women serve. And Brother Anderson, most particularly dangerous duty, because the perception was you can't handle that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you talk about it in 2024 and still having some challenges,
Yes.
what in the world is that like? You have more females, but yet you still face challenges.
Yes, and one of the main challenges I had was becoming the commander
Yes.
at the VFW. I was an appointed position, which is the secretary. The name of that is an adjutant.
Adjutant.
And that was an appointed position that they just appointed me to have when I first joined. And I kept that position up until from 2015 to 2021. And I never had first vice, any elected position, first vice, second vice, anything elected.
Amazing.
And I just somehow went from my appointed position to commander. And there was quite a few males,
Okay.
and there was some white males that
Yes.
were not very perceptive to an African American woman. They didn't
Yes.
want a woman, and definitely not an African American. So
Absolutely.
I did face a few challenges.
All right.
And they even seemed like I didn't know how to do my job. But they didn't realize how much training and praying and reading and asking other people how to help me do my job. And of course, the past commanders that are over me, they're more like uncles, and they are
Yeah.
doing a very good job of training me to stay as a commander. Because one of the white men that I ran into a little bit of scruff with, he's been a member of that post since 1980.
Wow.
And he's 91 years old.
Yes.
And he's still there. And last year, when we got ready to do our elections, he was the one that raised his hand and said, I asked for a motion to keep all of the officers as current with no election.
That just lets you know how God works.
It does.
That is
Yes,
that.
yes.
And I would like to find out from each of you an example of helping me ask the question, is your hat. Some of the different positions and what they mean. And before we do that, we're going to ask DeQuay Wilson, again, our producer, engineer, announcer, co-host on Wave Your Grades, for this break announcement. And we will be right back with Jarena Floyd, Ben Anderson, Commander Floyd, and
Quartermaster.
Quartermaster Anderson. Here is DeQuay Wilson.
It is time to remind our 7th through 8th grade students that you can win a monetary award from our sponsoring organization. Yes, we do say organization on purpose, with purpose. Students for Boots. Your essay title will be Heroes You Know You Didn't Know Were Heroes. Your content will identify a veteran at your school, can be absolutely anyone. Custodian, coach, administrator, bus driver, absolutely anyone. If your essay is chosen and submitted by an adult who gives you permission to read it on this Wave Your Grades program, you will be awarded a monetary prize. For entry or inquiry, please send to stootsforboots@gmail.com. That is STOOTSFORBOOTS@gmail.com. Again, stootsforboots@gmail.com. Now back to our host, Carl Boyd.
Thank you so very, very much. And now back to our guests. And Sister Floyd, some of the duties and responsibilities.
Well, we have a district level, and that is comprised of 9 other posts in the local area.
Okay.
And so they have quarterly meetings that I must attend
Yes.
to represent our post. And then we have a state level. So that's all of the states in, all of the posts in the state of Missouri.
Okay.
And they have quite a few conferences and educational trainings that if I don't attend, someone
Yes.
from our post, we have to send a representative. And sometimes they realize that, we just can't make them all, because they have about at least 4 a year. And that gets a little costly.
Yes.
Because, you have to drive to those locations. Most of the time, they're not in Kansas City. And then you have to have lodging, because they are at
That makes
least
sense.
3 to 5 days at times. So, and then we have our national convention, and it's at a different state each year. And so that's, like I said, that could be 3 to 5 days as well. So it's a lot.
This is interesting. Now that's District 5.
We are District 5, yes.
I was
Yes.
blessed. I wrote a book in 2014 called Academic Patriotism, American Students Striving for Excellence in Honor of Our Troops. And the foreword was written by Carl Tate, who is a
Okay.
former commander of District 5. So that was kind of him, my being a civilian.
Okay.
But as we look at the way things go and progress, quartermaster is a title for me. But as you observe the way 8100 in Grandview, we've had the occasion, DeQuay, on the show to talk to a few people who have suggested, you hear the word, the letters VFW, and you think of old white men smoking cigars and playing bingo. And it would be well to see more young men and women
Yes.
of all cultures. But how do you?
I think one of the situations that we have is that the number of black men that join any organization, military type, has increased, but
Okay.
is very limited.
Yes, sir.
And most of the individuals that join is elderly.
Yes.
And I think mainly
Yes.
because the younger generation has so many things that they're trying to do and accomplish, and trying to do it all at once, that they don't have time to sit down and spend an hour
Okay.
or 2 hours discussing something that's associated with service.
Exactly.
And basically just about every military organization you go to now demand service from the individual members. It's something Well, it's something that I learned in the Navy, that you're going to be deployed and your family's going to stay here. When your family stays here, who's going to take care of them?
Wow.
All right?
Wow.
And I had 2 boys. And my attitude is when I'm in port, I take and dedicate as much time as I can with those 2 boys. But when I'm at sea, my wife is got to be
Yes, indeed.
the mother and the father that raise those kids. But we've been lucky. I mean, I was lucky enough to have military people around me when when we was deployed in Hawaii, for instance. We lived in an area where it was basically totally military. It's, let's say, a neighborhood, just like a neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
whenever I left, I had my next door neighbor or a neighbor across the street checking in to watch my kids. And basically the understanding was, if he says don't do that or stop doing that, it's just like me saying don't
My
do
Lord.
that.
Listen
And
to
basically that's what they responded to, and it really helped. And then when I got out of the Navy, I had a bunch of veterans around me
Yes.
that had moved into the neighborhood before I moved in, and they was involved in baseball, football, basketball, soccer, and basically this was things that my sons was interested in. So they got to know my sons and me through that, those activities. And being ex-military, when I came in, I helped with the baseball, I helped with the basketball,
Yes, sir.
I helped with all the
Yes, sir.
activities. And
This is so good, and DeQuay, what we are hearing, Commander Floyd can help me with this. Quartermaster Anderson, when he talked about that camaraderie, how often do we hear about what's wrong with the VA, discrimination, the difficulty to get things done, all of that? But when this gentleman to my right talked about the camaraderie, he didn't say black camaraderie. He didn't say officers camaraderie. These are people who have been a part of the military. So what are some of the ways that VFW is a help to veterans, as opposed to too often talking about what's going on that's wrong?
Okay. Well, let me back up and first say that the quartermaster for our post, he is our treasurer.
Okay.
That's what the quartermaster does.
Thank you.
Because some people are like, what is a quartermaster?
Yes, ma'am.
You know. So, yes, he is our treasurer.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And he
ma'am.
does excellent books. I mean, he does an excellent job with our finances. And so back to your question. We do an awful lot for the community. We have bingo every Monday that our post hosts. So when I tell people I'm going to bingo, they say,
Yes.
oh, well, win you a lot of money. And I'm like, I don't play, we host. Because there's a lot of behind the scenes that happens. All people do when they come in the door, they pay for their papers, they have their little daubers, and they start daubing their numbers. They don't know how much paperwork and the controlling of the finances to make sure that the paperwork and the money match with 100% accuracy. Because the Missouri Bingo Commission, they can fine us, and if after so many fines, they can shut us down.
My Lord.
And there's a lot of camaraderie just with a lot of past veterans and their families, and a lot of people in the Grandview community. They look forward to coming out to bingo on Monday nights
Rain,
at 7 p.m.
snow, sleet.
Yes, they when we close for the weather, They're pretty angry. They'll say, well, we could have made
Wow.
it, and it's
Yeah.
like, well,
Why'd you shut down?
yeah, we
we
want you to be safe.
We shut down because there's ice out there in the driveway.
Thank you
Yes.
very, very much.
We
And
want them to
you
be
got to get
safe.
out of your car and get to the building before you're safe.
Yeah.
And we couldn't take care of it, so we
Yes.
shut down on those.
Yes.
See, I gotta tell you,
Thanks.
in the time in which we are living, DeQuay, and by the way, I can't play bingo because they have a sign that says you have to be 16 to play bingo. I'm too old. but seriously speaking, when you brought it up before in terms of your travel to the district meeting, all of those different things,
Yes.
and then you mentioned the importance of keeping records. We're living in a time right now where turn on the TV, you see breaking news. And too often it's about somebody who has misused funds. Now it has come into major trials that are being conducted now.
Yes.
President's son. I mean, all of these kinds of things.
Yes.
So if people don't understand the importance of Brother Anderson, thank you for making that clear because the
Yes.
records have to be impeccable.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, as a quartermaster, you're expected to be able to take and respond anytime anyone asks questions about where the money's going.
Yes, sir.
And basically, most people don't think about the utilities, the upkeep of the buildings, the maintenance of the surrounding properties that we're responsible for.
Yes.
That falls under pretty much my jurisdiction. I basically have to hire people to come in and take care of the backed up sewer and all this
Yes,
kind of
sir.
stuff.
Yes,
You know,
sir.
so
Thank you.
I mean, it's somewhat of a challenge, but I don't mind doing it because basically someone has to do it.
yes, sir.
And that's the attitude I took when I got joined the Navy. When I joined the Navy, I was 20 years old, and I told my mom, take all my clothes and give them to the Salvation Army or somebody that can use them.
Wow.
She says, why? I said, because I'm going to be here for a while. And that's, I looked around and I saw, I had uncles and aunts. I had only two people that was in the military
Wow.
the rest of them had gone in and got out. Many of them got out. My father got out with a medical because he had come down with a malaria
Yes, sir.
while he was in Japan. But I had other people that had joined the Navy and the Army, and I had one cousin that had joined, and he got his 20 years in, but he was a reservist, so he wasn't gone all the time.
Yes.
I had two other cousins I never met that one was in the Army and one was in the Navy. And I wrote to them every now and then, when I first got in, and they gave me a few pointers,
Yes, sir.
what to do.
Yes, sir.
But I never met them. And as far as I know, they retired. Now, I never saw how they conducted their life or anything.
My Lord.
But when I looked around and I saw that none of my family was drawing a pension from the service,
Oh.
and I looked around at others that I worked with,
Yes.
I bowled with,
Well, good point.
had cars,
Good point.
and looked like well-to-do
Yes, sir.
individuals.
Yes, sir.
And I says, now, how in the devil did they get there?
Wow.
So when I joined the Navy, I figured I want a pension from the service.
Yes, sir.
I want someone
Yes,
to treat me just like those guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not us guys, but those guys. They're drawing a pension from the service. They're working over here in McDonnell Douglas and different places like
Yes.
that, making all kinds of good money. And
Yes, sir.
we're just struggling.
My Lord. Now,
Yes, sir.
Sister Floyd,
Yes, sir.
you heard age 20
Yes, sir.
and you heard 27 years.
Yes, sir.
Now tell us about yours.
Okay. When I joined the Army, I was, 18.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
whew, and with my short stint of 4 years, because of my chapter,
Yes.
my husband, he did stay in 20 years, and he wanted to get out.
Oh,
I mean, he
okay.
wanted to get out at year 12. And his family, from being, I call them the backwoods of Georgia, they thought we were rich. And they said, the government pays all your bills. And I said, I wish they did. But I guess the perception of people living in government housing, where they don't have to pay utilities and don't have to pay rent or mortgage. So maybe that's the perception that they got when you live in military housing. But we didn't live in military housing all the time. So we
Okay.
did have to pay,
Okay.
Rent and mortgage
Yes.
and utilities.
Yes.
So when my husband decided he wanted to get out, there was so many people that didn't stay in 20 years told him, we wish we had the opportunity to stay in. So if you still have the opportunity, you should take it and stay in and do 20 years. And I'm glad he did 20 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I get half of his military retirement.
Well,
I get half of that pension, yes.
well, let me speak to or ask about something that both of you are saying now. Sister Floyd was at church last Sunday, and they were talking about black military history. And the gentleman who was conducting this particular session is retired military or discharged.
He was retired Army.
Retired
Yeah.
Army.
Yeah, he was a
Now,
major.
one of the things that Major Rocky said was he would not encourage his children to go into a military career.
Yes.
I've heard it both ways because we've been blessed to be doing the program for a little while, where there are some who have had experiences that make them very adamant about, no, I don't want my child to go. There are others who say, in no uncertain terms, please go, please take advantage of the benefits. This is some place where not only do you have the opportunity for a significant career, but it teaches you behaviors, it teaches you discipline, it gives you camaraderie, all of those. So from both of your perspectives, is it one or the other, or possibly both in a way? And I'll start with you.
Well, I was listening to the minister last week when he was very adamant,
Yes.
and he explained clearly of why he didn't want his children to join the military. And for me, with my two children, I have a daughter and a son.
Oh,
and my
okay.
daughter's the oldest.
Okay.
She wanted to be a teacher since she was 4 years old.
All
She
right.
lined her stuffed animals up, and my son, and she was teaching back then. So
Yes.
she did not deter from that career.
Okay.
But my son, he told us, he said, I do not want to join the military. I saw what you guys went through, and
Wow.
me going to an HBCU, it told me that I don't want to join the military. So I said, well, if you're going to go the educational route, I have benefits that you can use.
Oh,
And
okay.
he used some of those benefits to obtain his master's. Now, he didn't want to go to school past his bachelor's.
Right.
But I told him, because of a benefit that I receive,
Wow.
you can get a stipend to continue your education. And he went, but mama, and
Wow.
I said, he's in South Carolina, and I said, if you tell me but mama one more time, I'm coming there. I'm going to pull you by the ear and take you to whatever college I want you to attend. And I said, and I don't think you want that. And he said, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. I'm going to get, within this next month, I'm going to find me a college and
Wow.
enroll and use the rest of your benefits. So he was able to,
Outstanding.
yes.
My
yes.
goodness.
So they didn't want to join the military. I didn't push it, but because they went and got, secondary careers. I mean, my daughter, she has
Yes.
her doctorate, and she's an assistant principal at Key West High School, and she's enjoying her career. And my son, he has his own 18-wheeler and his own business, and he gives, he's a frat brother, so he gives back to his HBCU, and he
Yes.
just enjoys life. Yes.
Okay, how would you come at that in terms of encouraging, discouraging, or as you say, make up your own mind? How do you approach that?
Well, I raised my boys to make their own decisions
Yes, sir.
within our realm. In
Okay.
other words, you make up your own decision and you live with your decision.
Yes, sir.
And I told both of them I didn't want them to join the service unless they went in as officers.
Wow.
Why? Because basically you're wasting. You can waste your time
Yes, sir.
being enlisted and get discouraged
Wow.
because most of us don't like taking orders.
Okay.
Okay, and most of the time, the orders that come isn't always something that's going to benefit you. So, when
very,
you're
very candid.
when you're a little concerned about the originality of the orders and the sincerity of the orders,
Yes, sir.
it sometimes causes you to take and rebel,
Yes.
rebuke the orders.
Yeah.
So, when I joined, I have one thing in mind: to get everything in order as
Yes.
quick as I could, and so. But when I got ready to retire, I had something to come home to, and even my sons thought I was partially rich.
See?
I mean, when I was enlisted, they thought their friends was telling them, "Oh, your father's this and that and the other, and he's in the service, and you guys are rich, and because you always got a new car or always got this." And the bottom line is, I was raised with nothing.
Yes, sir.
My mom made $50 a week cleaning houses.
Wow.
I was one of three.
Wow.
And she sent us through school. We went to school. We had clean clothes, and basically,
Interesting.
well, I mean, she raised us with my father for most of our years, and then they got divorced, and then we finished up our high school with a single mom, and that's when the demands became really great with her because she's trying to take and feed three kids off of that $50 or $60 a week.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it was very straining. But she set us down and explained to us that you can make whatever you want if you put in a little work.
Now.
And she had us doing our own laundry, and she taught us how to cook. She told me, she says, with your attitude, is a good possibility you may never find a wife, but but if you know how to cook, you don't have to have a wife. And you know how to wash your clothes, you don't have to have a wife. And I said,
Are we
"Okay."
recording this?
And so when my boys was coming along, I took the attitude that, hey, I'll teach you as much as I can when I'm around you, and it's up to you to use what I teach you.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
I'm not telling you to join the service, but unless you get your act together, the
Right.
service is the best place for you to
Wow. Well,
go. Neither one joined the service.
okay. And are doing,
My oldest
fine.
one is deceased.
I'm sorry.
He got in with the wrong crowd after he got in high school. He was running with he was in the same situation I was.
Okay.
He was
Except
going.
that you took a
He was
different
going
path.
over there, and
Yeah.
all the people over there had parents that would give them money to have
Do
fun.
whatever. Yeah.
And I was telling him, "You want Nikes? I'll put 50% of the cost for a Nike.
Yes.
But meanwhile, as long as I'm paying for the whole shoe, we're going to get a Kmart special probably, a Walmart special." And I said, "Your shoes don't make a man."
Listen, I remember my
Yeah.
coach in 1956. He said Converse, and my father said $12 for some. So, but I wanted to. Oh, I see. I wanted to make sure, Sister DeQuay, if you had a question and/or comment, that you would get that in. And in as much as we're close to the end of the program, I was talking about this being the last Saturday, Black History Month. Any comments either or both of you want to make about that in general, or something specific you want to make sure we don't go away with not hearing from you? So anything?
I just want to say that remember our history, especially African American history, that they do not teach in schools. And when it's taught to you, please listen.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
the school won't teach you this. And these are the shoulders that we stand on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's.
Thank
The
you.
only thing I can say is that put yourself in the situation that George Washington Carver was in, and all the other inventors and scientists like them. They didn't have everything to work with.
Right.
They had the willingness to learn to work.
Thank you.
And basically, a lot of times you'll have to take and bite your tongue to get where you want to go. You got to put your hands down to your side to get where you want to go.
Wow.
You can't beat your way to the top.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, and you can't stare down anybody.
Right.
I mean, it just goes to show you that these kids that died last week died
Yes.
because of some individual
Yes.
pulled the gun because someone was staring him down. You don't live like that. You got
My
to take and
God.
live with the understanding that you have to take and get along with everybody you run into, and that's the way I was able to make it through the service.
Yes, sir.
I put up a lot of
Yes,
stuff
indeed.
in the service, being the only black. But I had a sight. I had a goal, and when I got out of the service, I achieved more than I expected to achieve. Why? Because I got help by keeping my mouth shut and respecting those that was trying to teach me.
Praise
And
God.
I think that if we can get our kids to realize that you can be called a nigger, or you can be called a spick or black or whatever, as long as you realize that you have to set your own goals,
Yes, sir.
and you've got to take and operate within the realm of the law, and try to do the best you can for yourself and for your family.
Yes.
That's the only way we're going to make it.
Wow. This
And
is
most
so,
of the people, if you look around and see that's driving a new car or
Yeah.
have a nice house, they have adjusted to the norm, and they've tried their best. They have decided that's what they want. And many of those people that you see living in nice houses didn't grow up in nice houses.
Yes, sir.
And the only way they got where they are is because they had good parents helping them, good family friends around them, and they shut their mouth when they should have.
My God. Thank you so very, very much, Commander Floyd and Quartermaster Anderson DeQuay Wilson.
I'd like to thank you all for joining us on your Stoots for Boots Wave Your Grade program. We come to you live every Saturday from 1 until 2 p.m. Central Standard Time from the W.E.B. Du Bois Learning Center right here in Kansas City, Missouri. I am your announcer, DeQuay Wilson. Now our host, Carl Boyd, will close with his Carl's commentary on academic patriotism and his daily message for students in honor of our veterans from his book, Morning Messages.
All right, 2 o'clock. I'm going to go right to the daily morning message to students across the USA. Your Stoots for Boots message for this day, February 24th. They volunteer to fight to protect the student's right to protect our nation by getting an education. My name is Carl Boyd. I am so pleased, and believe me, you will be asked again. And you have been here to return to help our young people understand and respect those who are serving and those who have served. Thank you so much, Commander Floyd. Thank you, Quartermaster Anderson. Thank you, DeQuay Wilson. My name is Carl Boyd. Gracious God and wonderful Wanda, I'm on my way home.